Welcome to HES Talk. In our previous conversation, we asked a big question. If we had to design school from scratch today, what would it look like? And this is not only our internal reflection. Global institutions like UNESCO are speaking about the need for a new social contract in education, about reimagining learning for a world facing uncertainty, interdependence, and rapid transformation. This understanding is not individual, it is systemic, it is global. But reimagining is not enough. So today we move from theory to practice. We present one concrete response. Why did we redesign English? Because traditionally English is often reduced to skills, reading, comprehension, listening tasks, grammar correctness. But language is not only a skill. Language shapes thought, language shapes identity, language shapes how a human being understands and expresses reality. So in HES, English becomes an author's lab. English touches not only literacy, but imagination, voice, structure of thinking, and personality. Today, I've invited to our studio the teachers who work with the HES English curriculum to share their experience from the classroom. I'm very happy to welcome Anjali, Jain, and Mahima Dixit, teachers at Anand Niketan International School, Ahmedabad, India. So let me begin with a simple question. What shifted in your classroom when English stopped being only a subject and became a creative laboratory? We're starting with one important question. As English in HES curriculum is done differently, so we're shifting to creative laboratory. So what really shifted in your classroom? What kind of changes you observe as teachers? Will you please share your experiences?
Thank you for the warm welcome. As a grade 3 and 4 teacher, I have seen dynamic shifts in the way children have started to think. Because earlier the concept was passive listeners, not active participants in form of children. So now when we bring in author's lab, we have a systematic way of introducing children to classic texts, the portion of the text that is relevant for that particular segment. Along with that, the literary devices and the grammar that the children need to learn for that specific portion of the story. Once they are done with that, in groups, interactively, they create the similar portion of their story. It could be a beginning, it could be a climax, or it could be rising action. Once this comes together, we see how well the children collaborate while doing it. One idea leads to another. Other than that, what I have also noticed is that children have started to value each other's thoughts. Rather than just thinking that I am the one, my idea is the best one, they try to build on each other's thoughts. They try to think about each other's as peers, not as competitors.
May I just a little bit slow down to highlight what you shared, because this is actually very important and dramatic shift. Because you mentioned the first thing, and I really wow, great. The first thing, that thinking, they're thinking, because you see usually all this thinking, though it is guided in traditional education, but where is that uniqueness of a child that comes during the learning? It is not there in traditional education. And what you mentioned, that this thinking becomes the way, becomes that the space where children see each other, where they meet each other during this learning. And learning all tools, I would say, reading classical things, grammar or literacy, they become tools to express their unique thinking and to build this thinking. This is really very important.
It is not really considered only as a subject, it is considered as a medium of expression, where the child can voice his or her emotions, feelings, and just be there, not just physically, but empathetically also, that the child is able to express the emotions and their peers are able to value the same emotions at the same time and bond with each other.
This is a really amazing part about empathy. You see, as an educator, many times people ask how to teach our children empathy. It is not something, you see, abstract topic, theoretical, when you just come and lecture, that it cannot happen like that. Empathy comes when you allow presence of each student and you allow that expression of their uniqueness in the class. Only then empathy can be as an organic way, of people to live together, to communicate, to understand that we are different, but we have something in common.
We can't just have a single lesson of empathy. Absolutely. We cannot have a single lesson of social and emotional connection with peers. But it has to be an ongoing process. And when these children collaboratively, constantly work in teams, where there's one leader on a rotational basis, they learn what a leader needs to do. They learn how a leader should be able to moderate a discussion also. These are skills that are real life skills that the children will actually be able to use even when they grow up.
And what I wanted to a little bit explain to our audience, because we know what we are talking about.
Yes.
But yeah, starting because from second grade up to fourth grade, they create stories by themselves, full stories, poems, and they work in groups. And so this part, we made it as a really group creativity. That is absolutely interesting part, because how to create while communicating and all this, because usually you see creativity is considered something very individualistic. You see individualistic, so that whatever you want you can do. But how to communicate, how to work together, these are skills that are needed. And through English as well, we teach them how to create together.
Create together. In fact, this has been Authors Lab actually has been a tool when the children work together. They learn to listen respectfully and they learn to disagree politely. They're not always that you're going to agree with everybody's thought, but you really need to understand that we need to be respectful towards each other. We need to be compassionate towards each other. That their experiences or their inputs might be coming from what they have learned in life. We need to value that.
Yes, these are values that are not just theoretical concepts given in the books, but this is the space where values live. This is important. And I want to ask Mahima one question for you, because in the first grade we have a little bit different approach, right? HES curriculum has a different approach. So that how we gradually unfold this creativity, because we cannot expect, let's say, children just to create their, fully independent stories at this age, right? So, but how we do it in the first grade, and what are the changes or challenges? Will you please just reflect on that?
Before I delve into that, I would want to point one thing out, that the students have surprised us in this, and we actually have seen the spark of creativity in developing in the students, the young learners of grade 1. So earlier, our primary focus was on developing the concepts, the foundational concepts. And here with HES, this curriculum, as it is trying to build on their foundations and basic concepts, it is basically a skill-based curriculum, and it is student-centric. So the students are actually pushed to think creatively, even in grade 1. And initially, we did not think that, because there are several factors here, even for grade 1, which surprised us, like vocabulary. So we did not initially thought that the students will be able to grasp or constructively use the vocabulary words that were introduced to them. But we have actually seen that happening in the class. And many students are able to easily assimilate all those words and their meanings in their sentences and their creativity. So it is very good to see that actually.
I would just like to a little bit explain to the audience what we are talking about, because in our case, vocabulary is not just a vocabulary, grammar is not just a grammar. Literary theory devices how to create good literature is not just literary theory just to know about, but to use. So this shift that we did and created that space where these things can be used creatively to express themselves. So we just built from the first grade as well, so that where it is in the task, so that nothing is just comes as a separate or not linked thing. Everything is linked, and it's a supportive thing for them to create, right? And we also have in first grade this kind of, I'm really interested how it goes in the classroom, because we have different situations where we have one story, and children, they are placed, this is immersive approach, they are placed in some situation where they need to expand the story. So this is how, can you please give us some examples?
We have one story, as you said, we have one story which is going on throughout the year. And the story is taking place in several places. As they go along, the students are sometimes visiting, they're actually time traveling. So they sometimes go 100 years back, or they go to a future, and they have actually not imagined all these things. And with this curriculum, we have actually widened their imagination, widened their creativity, and they've actually started thinking on those lines. They think about how the earth would be, how our world would be in future if we are actually living in the sky, on the clouds, and if we actually can build a city there. So here we have authors lab, we have literary theory exploration, and we give the students different situations which are there for the students to explore. So, as much as we would want them to be independent, the students are actually provided a guided help with this curriculum. So, they can actually think more, and much more ideas can come to their minds with this guidance. So, this is actually a very nice way to introduce such concepts to them.
I really appreciate for mentioning that we really provide some space for them to think about something that they have never, even were imagined or exposed, let's say, in their everyday life. So that this is what education is. We need to give them questions to think. We need to give them tools to create. So English is not just language about correctness. This is what I want to mention. It's not about that part. It's not about filling in the blanks or choose out of 5 options. It's about what you really think, how you really create, what you want to give to the world through language. So that this was our aim while creating English, not just as that boring kind of exercises worksheets, but the space where thinking, creativity, social skills, meeting each other in our uniqueness, so that and creating something together will be possible. But one more question about what kind of challenges, because it's not that kind of easy, because I know we had some challenges, education challenges about when we invite uniqueness of our children. What are?
So it wasn't easy, but nevertheless, it was very, very rewarding. When I see children perform, excel, I feel that that's the reward that I've been looking for. That gives me the supreme satisfaction that what I'm trying to impart, the children are able to execute, nurture, even like grow with a lot of love. So when we started off with this, with Authors Lab for the first time, I was new to it. The children were super new to it. I still had some training, they had none. They were just, they just had to go with the flow.
So now we're asked to be creative, really.
Yes,
wow,
yes.
what's
Suddenly
it?
they were like nothing out of the box. I'm like, okay, but aren't you going to tell us what to do? I said, no, I am not going to tell you what to do. You are going to show me what you have done.
Yeah.
So I am only going to provide you the tools. I am going to create the right atmosphere to facilitate here, to help you in case you need help. But before asking for help, you will have to look within. That do you need help from me or from your teammates, from your group members? And that is what really kind of broke the ice between the teams also. Earlier it was about competition. I need to score better than her. I need to perform better than her. I need to raise my hand more number of times in the class, or petty things. I should finish my work before. I should be the first one to finish my work. But now they are hand in hand. Oh, you haven't finished your work? Come, I'll help you. We'll finish it together. That is what is the classroom environment now, and that kind of makes my heart full of love when I see these little children not competing against each other as if they're in some kind of a rat race, but helping each other, pulling each other along. Oh, how can you not? Come on, I'll tell you this. Okay, you didn't understand this. I'll help you with this. And these kind of moments in class are the most beautiful ones.
You see, because why it happened naturally, it happened because competition come when we have, let's say, one carrot. I'm sorry for this.
Yes.
One carrot, and we need to compete for this one carrot.
Yes.
Who is, the first one to catch it.
Yes.
So that this is the motivation of traditional education. But when we say, you see, every one of you have your own carrot.
Yes.
You have your own space. You are unique. You are just, live your life. You should not compete. So that, and they have there. So in this case, they really feel that nothing to compare. They have their own space, and they just, focused on that creative work. What kind of challenges we have in first grade, apart from these traditional challenges, but with creativity, actually, this is really psychologically not that easy to go to creativity, because usually, even with little kids, we expect what we really want from them. this is, I mean, education, how traditionally is built. So we expect, I mean, the only one correct answer. When creativity comes, so the teacher needs to be that wide open for different types of examples and when they do their creative task, right? So that what are the challenges in
So
first
our
grade?
our challenges in grade 1 began at a root level with their reading capacity, whether they were able to read or not. But the story in our curriculum is so interesting. It is a continued story, so that made them immerse themselves in the story, and then they were so looking forward to
So they were
going to the next
motivated,
part
they
of the
were
story.
looking, yes.
So that made them interested in reading. That was the first point. Secondly, working independently or working in groups, because they are too young to understand how to help others or when to ask for help. So we, with this guidance, with this curriculum actually, when they do the situations, when they understand the situations, different situations that are given to them in different authors' lab or different activities, they actually go to their level, become the characters themselves,
Yeah.
and try to imagine and then frame their work or task or.
So psychologically, yes, by the way, I will just explain one thing so that because I know what you refer. Because in our task in situations, sometimes it's very difficult for a child to open up psychologically. So that's why some situations we created, you can choose any character,
Right.
so that for a child, he or she will feel comfortable. I mean, to act. Not perhaps, because some children, they easily can just, you see, having these hero kind of things, they can create something new. And for some children, it's psychologically very difficult to speak from the first, you see, person. So that's why in our situations we created, you can act as a character, or you can just, whatever you can just, perhaps as you are there in this story. So we gave that freedom, and we gave that frame where children can find what is, I mean, easier for them and more comfortable. It was, I know that there are so many stories to share, because
There are just so many stories, so many good ones, so many warm, heart-touching stories to share. With the children have come up with such beautiful, beautiful things, and I think time will never permit us to do justice to any one, two, or all the stories.
yes,
But
unfortunately.
unfortunately, yes. But the one story that I'd really, really like to share, when we came to our poems, and when the grade 4 students were supposed to talk about lyrical poems, where they're expressing their own feelings, when they're putting their thoughts onto paper. And of course, with your guidance, ma'am, I was able to invoke emotions that children might not have otherwise been able to express. The usual ones spoke about victories, medals, happiness, birthdays, all of it. But there were some few that touched about losing a loved one, that touched emotions of a teacher that they loved a lot. These things really, and then when there were two children who bonded over, who had similar experiences, they came together and bonded over the same experience, and they were able to share with each other comfortably that I went through this, and she's like, I also went through this, I coped up like this, I had, and you have me if you want to share ever, or you want to talk. This kind of emotional support, when you receive it from your peers, you will not
That's
have
amazing,
to
yeah.
look elsewhere, or not have pent up emotions that later become issues in life.
That's amazing, really, because you see, that's why I say we have so many stories, beautiful stories, when we see our students, when we feel where.
I had tears in my eyes when I read the work. I mean, it's not an emotion that I really often have, but I had tears in my eyes, because most of us have gone through certain traumatic experiences in life. When you see a child expressing it so beautifully, and she did the work right in front of me in class. She had the courage to do it.
So this is what you see, actually, I was looking for, to bring children with their lives, their emotions, their thoughts, the way how they communicate these emotions and thoughts, so that into educational reality. So this is what English is in HES curriculum. And I'm really, really very thankful to you for coming, for sharing some ideas. I know there are lots of stories and ideas, but I hope our audience could feel that what is done here, it's absolutely different. So thank you very much once again, and thank you for watching us.
Thank you, ma'am, for having us here. Thank you.